Chapter 28. The Prince's Assessment. The teleportation light faded. Commander Thrace stood alone in the capital street, or appeared to stand alone. A dozen exhausted mages scattered throughout the district, too focused on their own survival to notice the subtle distortion in the air beside her. Like heat shimmer, like reality remembering it had forgotten something. The illusion unraveled like smoke caught in wind. A man emerged from nothing. 6'8" of controlled power wrapped in dark armor that drank light rather than reflected it. The plates were matte black, etched with patterns that hurt to look at directly. Magic woven into metal in ways that made culmination look like a child's toy. Thrace's spine straightened automatically. Military discipline overriding exhaustion, overriding the bone-deep weariness of coordinating a city's survival for hours without rest. She dropped into a formal bow, one fist pressed to her chest.
My prince.
The honorific came out crisp, professional, carrying none of the intimacy that would follow. He chuckled. The sound was warm, genuine. The sound of someone who found protocol amusing when unnecessary. He gestured with one massive hand.
No one is here, my love. Stand.
His hand settled on her shoulder, guiding her upright with gentle insistence. The moment skin touched uniform, the transfer erupted between them. Ashen ink flowed in torrents that would make Liv and Dane's desperate exchanges look like children playing at magic. Years of accumulated byproduct moving in perfect equilibrium. Vast quantities balanced with the ease of two people who had been doing this for decades. Thrace's expression barely flickered. The consummate commander even now. But there was softness around her eyes that had not been there before. A hint of pleasure she allowed herself only with him. Only when certain they were alone. The transfer continued for 30 seconds. 40. A full minute of power flowing between them that would have killed lesser mages in the first 10 seconds. When it finally subsided, Thrace's shoulders had relaxed fractionally. The tension she carried like armor loosened just enough to breathe. The prince's gaze tracked where the teleportation signature still lingered in the air. His expression was thoughtful, calculating in ways that would terrify anyone who understood what thoughts moved behind those eyes.
So that is them,
he said. Weight settled into those simple words. Assessment, judgment. Plans forming in real time. Thrace followed his gaze to the empty space where two students had departed, where the impossible resonance of synthesized magic still hummed through reality like a bell that would not stop ringing.
They are not strong enough yet.
It was not criticism, just statement of fact delivered with the certainty of someone who could read power the way scholars read text, who could measure magical potential with the precision of an engineer measuring load-bearing capacity. Thrace nodded once, sharp and economical.
I know, but it takes time to build a bond and time to grow stronger.
Her voice carried the edge of someone defending a tactical decision to a superior who she also shared her bed with. The balance between commander and lover. Between subordinate and equal. Walked with practiced precision that came from years of navigating exactly this dynamic.
They've only been truly partnered for months. The bond they already have shouldn't be possible for any pairing with less than 2 years of constant coordination.
She paused, let the weight of that statement settle, then added with careful deliberation.
And what they did today, that level of integration,
The word hung in the air between them. Not synthesis, not the forbidden term, just integration. Careful language that could mean many things to anyone listening. But the prince would understand. He always understood. Pride was buried in that assessment. Carefully controlled but present nonetheless. She had seen something in those two that reminded her of younger versions of herself and the man beside her. Potential that could reshape the battlefield if given time to mature. If they survived long enough to mature. The prince's hand tightened fractionally on Thrace's shoulder. More ash and ink pulsed between them. Not transfer this time, but communication. Magical resonance carrying meaning that words could not. Understanding passed between them in that moment of perfect connection. Concerns shared without speaking. Calculations made in the space between heartbeats.
We don't have much of that precious resource.
The prince replied. Now there was something harder in his voice. Urgency wrapped in royal authority. The sound of someone who saw threats others missed and planned for catastrophes others could not imagine.
We need them to be ready sooner rather than later.
The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. With timelines Thrace could only guess at. With threats she had not been briefed on because they existed at levels of classification she did not have access to. Even as a commander, even as the prince's lover. Some secrets remained sealed. Thrace's jaw set. Her military training fighting against the concern that wanted to spill out. The desire to demand answers. To know what dangers her students were being prepared for. But she was a soldier first. Had been a soldier for 30 years. Knew better than to ask questions that would not be answered. Instead, she asked the question that mattered more immediately.
What will your father do when he finds out about them?
The question hung between them. Weighted with implications that went far beyond simple curiosity. The Emperor was not known for predictable reactions. Was not known for mercy or logic or anything resembling conventional thought. He was known for whims that shaped the Empire. For favor as dangerous as his wrath. For reactions that could not be predicted by logic or precedent. The prince's response was immediate. A hearty laugh that echoed off the ruined buildings around them. Genuine amusement at the sheer unpredictability of it all.
I honestly don't know.
He said. There was something almost affectionate in his exasperation. The tone of someone who had spent a lifetime trying to predict an unpredictable man and had long since given up.
Kill them. Grant them baronies. Kill the boy and make her his new queen. Any are possible with him.
The casual listing of fates ranging from execution to elevation to something far more disturbing spoke volumes about the Emperor's nature. About the man who ruled the Empire with absolute authority and zero consistency. Thrace's expression tightened. The worry she'd been containing now visible in the lines around her eyes. In the way her mouth compressed into a thin line. They both knew that unpredictability at that level of power meant Liv and Dane existed in a precarious space. Valuable enough to be useful. Threatening enough to be dangerous. And entirely at the mercy of an emperor who played games with human lives the way children played with toys. Who might see synthesis magic and decide it was exactly what the Empire needed. Or might see it as a threat to the established order and eliminate it before it could spread. Or might see a young binder with unprecedented power and decide she belonged in his bed rather than on a battlefield, or might do something no one could possibly anticipate. The prince's hand slid from her shoulder. He stepped back, his expression sobering.
Keep them alive, my love. Keep them strong, and keep them hidden until I can determine which way the wind blows.
The order was clear, simple, impossible to execute. How did you hide something that radiated magical signatures every mage in the capital had felt? How did you keep students growing while keeping them hidden? How did you protect them from threats they did not even know existed, including possibly from the Emperor himself? The prince's fingers moved in a complex pattern. The illusion reformed around him like water closing over a stone. Reality separating to accommodate his presence, dividing to hide him from eyes and magical senses alike. He vanished as completely as if he had never been there at all. Thrace stood alone in the empty street, staring at the space where two extraordinary students had departed, where impossible magic still hummed through the air in patterns that should not exist. She was already calculating, already planning, how to protect them from threats they did not know existed. How to keep them alive long enough to become what the prince needed them to be. How to hide synthesis magic that announced itself to every mage within miles. Someone who knew what it was would notice, eventually. How to protect two students from an emperor whose reactions could not be predicted, whose favor was as dangerous as his wrath. Who might kill them or elevate them or claim them for purposes that had nothing to do with what they wanted. Thrace turned and walked back toward her command center. Her steps measured. Her expression locked into the mask of military professionalism that had served her for 3 decades. But her mind raced with calculations, with contingencies, with plans that might keep 2 students alive long enough to matter, if the Emperor allowed it, if the winds blew in the right direction, if luck favored them for once instead of destroying everything they built. Epilogue. The balance. I woke to morning light filtering through windows that framed a life I never believed I would have. Our shared quarters at the academy. The words still felt impossible some mornings. Ours. Shared. Together. Culmination hung mounted on the wall beside my collection of pressed flowers. Each bloom represented a mission we had survived together. The sword's silver gleam caught the dawn light. No longer a symbol of noble death. Just a weapon. A tool. Something Dane used instead of something that used him. Our uniforms hung side by side in the wardrobe. His larger, mine smaller. The fabric touching like a promise made tangible. I turned my head on the pillow. Dane slept beside me, his breathing steady and warm in the pre-dawn quiet. I watched him for a moment, cataloging the changes that still caught my breath with their impossibility. His skin was human warm, no silver sheen, no crystalline translucence. Just flesh that moved and breathed and lived without counting down to beautiful glass death. He shifted unconsciously toward my heat. His joints moved with fluid grace. No stiffness. No mechanical jerking. The crystallization that had nearly claimed him had reversed so completely it seemed like nightmare rather than memory. I traced my fingers along my own collarbone, feeling only smooth skin. The black marks that had spread like poison were gone, erased by months of perfect balance, of transfer that healed instead of just managing. of choosing each other again and again until the choosing became as natural as breathing. We were whole. We were together. The impossibility of it still stole my breath some mornings. Dane had formally dismissed his other rotation partners 3 weeks ago. The decision sent ripples through Academy politics. Some called it romantic. Others called it reckless. A few called it exactly what it was. Inevitable. The administration approved without hesitation. Our combat effectiveness at Silvrath made our bond too valuable to complicate with rotation protocols designed for lesser connections. The official report said we had closed the Drowning Deep vent, then been emergency extracted by Commander Thrace before the 7th District operation. The unusual magical signature that every mage in the capital felt? That was credited to the prince himself and Commander Thrace working together to seal the largest vent. We were not even in the capital when it happened. According to the records, the truth was buried under layers of official documentation and strategic omission. Only Thrace knew what we had actually done, what we could actually do. And she was not telling anyone. Not even the Academy administration, who approved our permanent pairing without understanding exactly why it mattered so much. Dane's eyes opened, hazel, clear, human.
You're staring.
He said, his voice rough with sleep. You're alive.
Still surprising.
Every morning, he pulled me closer, his body warm against mine. Real. Solid. Present. We lay there in comfortable silence, watching dawn paint patterns across our ceiling, building another memory of simple happiness to add to the collection we were creating one careful day at a time. Our days unfolded with practice synchronicity that felt simultaneously natural and miraculous. We taught classes together. Dane demonstrated advanced cleaving techniques while I wove supporting binding threads. Our magic flowed in perfect harmony. Students stared with expressions that cycled between awe and envy and something that might be hope. In the practice yards, we trained new initiates. Our movements so coordinated they looked choreographed. Dance rather than combat instruction. Step, pivot, strike, bind. Everything flowing together like water finding its level. A first-year cleaver watched us with wide eyes.
How long did it take you to synchronize like that?
Months.
Dane said, his tone matter of fact.
And almost dying several times.
He's joking about the dying part, I added quickly.
No, I'm not.
The initiate's expression shifted from awe to uncertainty. Good. Better they understood what partnership actually cost, what it required, what it meant beyond romantic notions of destined souls. We shared meals in the dining hall. No longer isolated, no longer targeted. Surrounded by tentative respect from students who had witnessed what we accomplished at Silvrath, even if the official reports scrubbed our names from glory. Seraphina had not returned from the wall. No official report of her death. No transfer of her body back to her family estate. No memorial service in the Academy chapel. Just absence where she had once dominated every social space with calculated cruelty. Her cadre avoided discussing it. Cassia and Millicent sat together at meals with empty chairs beside them, their expressions carefully blank when anyone asked questions. Leanna had transferred to a different academy entirely. Some said she requested it. Others whispered she had been ordered away by someone with authority none of us could question. The official line was deployment. Extended service. Classified operations that could not be discussed for security reasons, but deployment orders were temporary. Soldiers came back. Eventually, Serafina did not come back. I caught Dane watching her empty seat sometimes, his expression unreadable. When I asked, he said nothing, just shook his head and changed the subject with the kind of deliberate evasion that meant he knew something he would not share. The mystery hung over the dining hall like morning mist, present but unacknowledged, heavy with implications no one wanted to examine too closely. The Academy watched us with mixed emotions. Admiration for our power, envy for our connection, hope that perhaps the brutal pairing system might allow for genuine partnership after all. We were what every dyad aspired to become. Perfectly balanced, effortlessly synchronized, so deeply bonded that the boundaries between self and other blurred into beautiful irrelevance. But I caught Commander Thrace watching us sometimes, her expression calculating in ways that made my skin prickle with unease. We were valuable assets that had proven useful at Silvrath. Assets the Empire would want to deploy again, but assets could become liabilities if they grew too powerful, too independent, too much of a threat to established order. I tried not to think about it, tried to focus on the present, on the happiness we had fought so hard to claim. Most days it worked. Evening found us alone in our quarters, both carrying the day's accumulation of ash and ink that needed releasing. The transfer began clinically. Hands clasped across the small table where we had been reviewing training reports. Magic flowing between us in familiar currents. His ash tempering my chaos. My ink softening his rigid control. But clinical became intimate with practiced ease. As natural as breathing. As inevitable as gravity. Dane's fingers traced the fading shadows on my collarbone, where ink had once threatened to consume me. His touch was reverent, possessive, both at once.
Gone.
He said quietly.
Completely gone.
My palms pressed against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Warm, human, alive. No crystal, no silver. Just flesh that would age and change and remain wonderfully, terrifyingly mortal.
You're staring again.
You're alive again. He pulled me closer, the transfer requiring increasing contact as we shed the day's build-up. We moved from table to bed without discussion, our magic intertwining in the darkness like lovers learning each other's rhythms. Neither pure order nor pure chaos. Perfect synthesis. His control gave structure to my passion. My spontaneity softened his rigidity. Both of us creating something that existed in the space between extremes. In the aftermath, I lay wrapped against him, tangled in sheets with magic still humming between us like a song only we could hear. I felt something I had stopped believing possible. Complete contentment. Dane traced idle patterns on my shoulder, his touch warm and human and infinitely precious.
I'm learning what it means to want tomorrow.
He whispered against my hair.
Not just surviving today, actually wanting the next day, and the one after.
The words settled into my chest, heavy with meaning. With the weight of someone who had spent years wanting nothing except a beautiful ending, finally choosing to want an ugly, messy, complicated future instead. The ash and ink were balanced. We were balanced. For now it was enough. But peace was fragile in a world constantly under siege. And old habits died harder than death wishes. We drifted toward sleep. The comfortable quiet of two people who had learned each other's silences, who could exist together without needing constant conversation to fill the space. Then Dane spoke, his voice carrying studied casualness that immediately made me tense.
Dyad deployments are being discussed.
I went still against him. Already?
We're technically a dyad, and we will be deployed.
Sector 7. The name hung unspoken between us. Inevitable as gravity. Inescapable as destiny. The gap still existed. Still killed dyads at catastrophic rates. Still bled defenders like an open wound that would not heal. The administration had not asked yet, but they would. I felt Dane tense against me. Felt through our bond the complex tangle of guilt and duty, and the seductive pull of meaningful sacrifice. One life traded for thousands saved over decades. The mathematics still appealed to him. The nobility of it still whispered in his quieter moments. No, I said.
I haven't suggested anything.
You're thinking it. I can feel you thinking it. His silence confirmed what I already knew. The death wish was not quite buried, just sleeping beneath layers of hard-won happiness, waiting for the right excuse to wake. Promise me, I said. Not tonight. Not this conversation. Not when we're finally happy. He was quiet for a long moment. Then his arms tightened around me.
Not tonight.
He agreed, but we both knew the question was only delayed, not dismissed. Some choices could only be postponed for so long. Eventually, the Empire would ask. Eventually, duty would demand. Eventually, we would have to decide if our happiness mattered more than the thousands who needed defenders at Sector 7. The silence that followed felt heavier than the comfortable quiet we had learned to share. Weighted with futures not yet chosen and sacrifices not yet demanded. Outside our window, the Academy slept, blissfully ignorant of the storms gathering on horizons they could not yet see. I pressed closer to Dane, feeling his heart beat steady against my cheek. Alive. Warm. Human. Mine. For now, that was enough. It had to be enough. Morning brought a messenger to our door with correspondence, rare enough to be noteworthy in an age of magical communication. Most Academy business came through crystal tablets or direct sending spells. Physical letters meant something formal, something that required official documentation. I sorted through the stack while Dane made tea in our small kitchen. The domestic normalcy of it still caught me off guard sometimes. Him. Making tea. For us. In our shared quarters. Most of it was routine. Academy business regarding our teaching schedules. Official commendations from Silvrath for our service with our names conspicuously absent from public records. The Empire wanted our power, but not our glory. Typical. A brief note from Father, asking when he might visit. When he could meet this young man I had written about. The merchant in him probably already calculating the political advantages of having a daughter partnered with an Ashforge. I set that aside to answer later. The last letter made my hands still. Recognition freezing my fingers mid-motion. Heavy parchment. Sealed with unfamiliar wax bearing a crest I did not recognize. In elegant script. A name I remembered from months ago when the world was darker and I had few choices. Kael Morvan, the dark cleaver who had offered me refuge when Seraphina's persecution was at its worst. who had asked for nothing except a promise. That I would visit if I ever needed something. That I would remember someone saw my worth when everyone else saw only target. Dane was in the shower, singing off key, happy in ways I never imagined him capable of being. Our quarters smelled like the tea he had made, like the life we were building one careful day at a time. I held the unopened letter, feeling its weight like prophecy, like promise, like threat. I should open it, should read whatever the mysterious Cleaver wanted after all these months. Should be honest with Dane about correspondence from a man who once offered escape. Instead, I slid it into my journal. Hidden between pages of poetry about second chances and hard-won hope. Pressed like a flower from a garden I had not visited, whatever Kale wanted, whatever future complications this letter represented. They could wait. I had fought too hard for this happiness to let shadows intrude. Not yet. Not today. But the letter remained. Waiting with patient inevitability for the moment, I could no longer ignore it. A reminder that the world beyond our quarters did not stop spinning just because we had found peace within them.